The GPS announced we'd arrive in 7 minutes. After 12 exhausting hours on the road, with our toddler finally asleep in the back, relief was within reach. Then my husband Mark's hand clamped onto my arm, his grip painfully tight. "Turn the car around. Now," he whispered, his eyes fixed on the shadowy structure ahead that was supposed to be our secluded forest retreat. Every tired muscle in my body screamed in protest. We were so close to rest. But the raw urgency in his voice cut through my exhaustion. That slow, careful three-point turn on the dark mountain road became the decision that separated us from a nightmare. This anniversary trip was meant to be our first real vacation since Lily was born. We'd spent weeks planning, researching cabins, comparing amenities, reading reviews. The Whispering Pines retreat seemed perfect, remote enough for privacy, yet modern enough for comfort. With stunning photos of a cozy interior featuring a stone fireplace and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountains, the journey started beautifully. We left at dawn, watching the city skyline fade into rolling hills, then into the dramatic peaks of the Blue Ridge Mountains. We sang along to playlists, stopped at scenic overlooks, and picnicked at a riverside rest area. But as we climbed higher, civilization slipped away. The towns grew smaller, the roads narrower, and eventually our cell service disappeared entirely. "We downloaded the directions, right?" I asked, trying to mask my nervousness as the GPS signal grew unstable. "Everything's saved offline," Mark assured me, though I noticed his knuckles were white on the steering wheel. The final 30 minutes tested all our patience. Winding, poorly maintained roads, darkness falling earlier than expected in the deep valleys, and Lily's growing fussiness from being confined too long created a tense atmosphere in the car. "Almost there, baby," I cooed to Lily, who finally succumbed to exhaustion in her car seat. Just a little longer. Mark remained unusually quiet, his eyes constantly scanning the dense forest that pressed in from both sides. "This is more remote than I expected," he murmured, more to himself than to me. When the GPS finally announced, "Your destination is on the right," we both leaned forward, eager for our first glimpse of our home for the next 3 days. Instead of the welcoming retreat from the photos, we saw a dark, dilapidated structure. The porch sagged ominously, several windows were broken or boarded up, and an unsettling silence enveloped the property. But more disturbing were the contradictions: no vehicles present, yet fresh tire tracks in the mud. No lights on, but a curtain twitching in an upstairs window. "Maybe we have the wrong address?" I suggested weakly, already knowing we didn't. Then Mark saw what I had missed. Tucked back in the trees was a smaller, darker cabin, and from its porch hung several wind chimes that caught the moonlight in an eerie way. As my eyes adjusted, I realized they weren't ordinary chimes. They appeared to be made of bones. Mark's hand tightened on my arm. "Turn the car around, now." The whispered command held such primal urgency that I didn't question it. My hands trembled on the wheel as I began the complicated maneuver on the narrow road, desperately trying to avoid the deep drainage ditches on either side. "Easy," Mark murmured, his eyes locked on the rearview mirror. "Nice and smooth." As our headlights swept across the main cabin during the turn, we both saw him clearly, a tall man standing silhouetted in the doorway, perfectly still, watching our retreat. He made no move to approach, no gesture of welcome or warning. His stillness was more terrifying than any aggressive action would have been. I hit the gas to harden my panic, the tires spinning uselessly in the mud before finally catching. "Don't speed," Mark said calmly, though I could see his own hands shaking. "Just drive normally until we're around the next bend." We drove in terrified silence for what felt like an eternity, both of us watching the mirrors for any sign of pursuit. "Did you notice the reviews?" Mark finally asked, his voice strained. "They were all 5 stars, I said. "You checked them yourself, all posted within the last 2 weeks, he said. "All by accounts created the same day they left the reviews. No history, no other activity." The implication settled over us like a physical weight. We'd been lured there. Lily stirred in her sleep, and I jumped at the sound. "What do we do?" "We have no service, we're almost out of gas, and it's below freezing. We drive until we find civilization or until morning," Mark said. "We don't stop for anyone, for any reason." An hour later, with the gas light glowing ominously and the needle hovering on empty, we saw lights in the distance, a single gas station looking like a mirage in the wilderness. As we pulled in, a police cruiser followed us, its lights flashing briefly. My blood ran cold. "Mark, stay in the car, keep the doors locked," he instructed, his hand already on the door handle. The officer who approached was middle-aged, with a kind but weary face. "You folks lost? Not many tourists up here after dark." We tumbled over each other telling our story: the cabin, the man, the bone chimes. The officer's expression turned grim. "You reported the listing?" "We haven't had service for hours," Mark explained. The officer nodded toward the station. "Come inside. Use our phone." You need to report this immediately." He paused, his eyes serious. "You made the right choice turning around. You're the third car this month to come down from that mountain with a similar story. The others didn't make it back to tell theirs inside the warm station." With Lily safely in my arms, the reality of our narrow escape hit me, and I began to shake uncontrollably. The station attendant, an elderly woman named Betty, brought us hot sweet tea and blankets. "You're safe now, honey," she said, her wrinkled hand patting my shoulder. While Mark called the rental platform, the officer Deputy Miller showed me something on his computer. "This is why we've been watching that area," he said quietly. On the screen were missing persons reports, 3 couples over the past 2 months. All last seen heading to rental properties in this mountain area. All vanished without a trace. "My God," I whispered, holding Lily tighter. Mark returned, his face pale. "The listing's already down. The host account's been deleted." Deputy Miller nodded. "They're smart. They move fast." The police escorted us to a small motel in the next town. As we settled Lily into a proper bed, the relief was so profound it felt like a physical weight lifting. Then the motel room phone rang. Mark answered cautiously. "Hello." I watched his face drain of color. He hung up without another word. "Who was it?" I asked, my own fear returning. "He asked if we'd found safer accommodations," Mark whispered. Then he said, "Tell the little girl I liked her pink coat." Lily's coat, the one she'd been wearing when we stopped for gas. The one she'd taken off inside the convenience store. He had been there. He had watched us. We called the front desk, our hands shaking. "Had anyone asked about us?" The night manager said a man had called, describing our car and asking our room number. But they'd refused. Deputy Miller returned with reinforcements. This time, they took it more seriously. They pulled the gas station security footage. There he was, the same man from the cabin doorway, now wearing different clothes, standing near the coffee machine, watching us as we used the phone. "He'd followed us 30 miles. We're putting you in protective custody," Deputy Miller said. "This is bigger than we thought." At the sheriff's station, we gave detailed statements. An FBI agent joined the investigation. Agent Carter, a serious woman with sharp eyes. "It's part of a trafficking ring operating across 3 states, she explained. "They use fake rental listings to lure victims to isolated locations." "You did exactly the right thing by trusting your instincts." The next morning brought stunning developments. A dawn raid on the cabin found it empty but yielded forensic evidence of multiple captives and a sophisticated surveillance system. "The bone chimes," Agent Carter explained, "were trophies, each representing a successful acquisition. But the most chilling discovery was the cabin's surveillance setup. Hidden cameras covered every approach, and the system was monitored remotely. They'd known we were coming, watched our arrival, and tracked our escape. We never would have left that cabin alive if we'd gotten out of the car." Mark said that night in our FBI-safe hotel room. His voice broke. "They were waiting inside. The front door was rigged to lock behind us." I thought of Lily's trusting sleep in the backseat, of how close I'd come to dismissing Mark's concerns as paranoia, of how our politeness nearly cost us everything. The investigation expanded rapidly. Using information from our report, authorities identified the man from the gas station and connected him to a larger network. His capture led to 2 additional arrests and, most importantly, the rescue of 3 women being held in a different state. Our nightmare had become someone else's salvation. We canceled the remainder of our trip and drove home the next day, a silent, traumatized family with an unmarked police car following us to the state line. The familiar sights of our neighborhood, kids playing in yards, neighbors walking dog, felt like scenes from another lifetime. The first weeks home were difficult. We jumped at unexpected noises, checked locks repeatedly, and slept with lights on. The what-ifs haunted my dreams. What if I'd argued? What if we'd gotten out to check the cabin? What if we'd run out of gas on that mountain road? We started family therapy to process the trauma. Our therapist helped us understand that surviving such an event changes you fundamentally. The goal isn't to return to who you were before, but to integrate the experience into who you're becoming slowly. The sharp edges of fear began to soften, replaced by a profound gratitude for Mark's intuition and my decision to trust him without question. Our marriage, already strong, developed an unshakable foundation of mutual trust and respect forged in those terrifying moments. Today, we celebrate our anniversaries quietly at home, with Lily safe between us on the couch. We don't need fancy trips or remote cabins. We've learned that the greatest luxury is security. The most precious gift is presence. Our story attracted media attention, and we've since connected with 2 of the women rescued. Because of the investigation our case triggered, one of them, Maria, sent Lily a handmade teddy bear with a note: "Thank you for being brave. Because you were, I get to see my family again." That bear sits on Lily's bed, a daily reminder that courage has ripple effects. Mark and I have become advocates for rental safety. We work with organizations to educate travelers about red flags in online listings, the importance of sharing itineraries with multiple people, and most crucially, trusting your instincts even when it feels rude or paranoid. I learned that intuition is a survival tool we've been conditioned to ignore. We're taught to be polite, to give the benefit of the doubt, to avoid making scenes. The criminals know this and count on it. As Agent Carter told us, they're betting on your politeness overriding your survival instinct. When you choose safety over social comfort, you break their entire system. Lily is growing up aware but not afraid. We'll tell her the full story when she's older, using it to teach her to always honor that inner voice that says when something isn't right. The experience changed our perspective on everything. We're more present, more grateful for ordinary moments, family dinners, walks, and safe parks. Nights spent sleeping soundly in our own beds. We take nothing for granted, especially not each other. Sometimes when we're driving at night, Mark will reach over and squeeze my hand. It's our silent acknowledgement of the bond that was forged in those terrifying moments on the mountain of trust. That has become the bedrock of our lives. We didn't just survive a nightmare. We learned how to truly live in its aftermath. And every time I buckle Lily into her car seat, I remember that the most important journey isn't to some remote destination, but the one that brings you safely home to the people you love.